Without further ado, we do present Dr. Marie and Dr. Eve, two mental health, public health veterans of over 25 years. Dr. Marie has lent her services to Africa and the Caribbean, and Dr. Eve is a recent volunteer with her services for disparaged communities in the financial area. We have two powerhouse women on the set tonight for our Brownstone chat. Without further ado, here they are.
All right. Doctors in the house, sisters in the house. Thank you so much for your patience and for saying yes to join us today. Many of you are regulars at our Wellness Wednesday, and today we're actually going to do a little something different. We're going to have a living room conversation on a topic, budgeting, that I've struggled with and have found some ways to love it and embrace it over the years. And it's a topic that we really don't talk about among ourselves. And then looking at the intersection of technology and budgeting, because this is technology and mindset. And this is what this Russell Dow does. That's one of our cornerstone, is technology and mindset. And so we're going to engage in just a conversation, and you're going to eavesdrop between me and my sister Eve on this topic. So, and then we want to hear from you.
So, this topic on budgeting, it's so emotional and it's so intense, right? And when it's time to do budgeting, we get the tension, not just from our shoulders, but our heads, our stomachs, and it's not a good feeling, right? But I'm going to turn this over to you and ask you, how do you make budgeting something you embrace and not fear?
Yeah. Eve, it's been a struggle. I'm going to be really honest that budgeting for me has not been easy. And I didn't grow up in a family where those kind of things were shared with me. I grew up in a family, though, where my mother did susu. That was part of her budgeting.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until much later that I understood what that was all about. And my family also tithe. That was another part of budgeting. I didn't begin to understand all of that until much later. And I have to tell you, my journey in this space was one of fear, because I had a conversation, I had a narrative, a story about numbers, that I was not good with numbers. That wasn't my thing. I'm a social worker. Let somebody else, let the accountant handle all the stuff. Listen, I didn't learn how to budget my checkbook until I was in my early 50s, okay? I'm telling myself out. But here's the thing. Along the way, and this is much later on, that I began to develop some strategies and began to embrace and love this whole process. And there's two things. And it goes back to my roots. Like, even though my parents didn't talk to me about budgeting, there was a foundation that they gave me that I came back to in my later years. And one of them was gratitude. Now, one of my mentors in the world, my online mentors, is a Japanese guru by the name of Henry Ken Honda. He wrote this book called Happy Money. And Happy Money talks about arigato in, arigato out. Thanking your money that comes in and thanking your money that goes out. And I was like, yeah, I could thank my money when it comes in, but when it's going out, that's a whole nother thing. But the process of gratitude began this conversation about, for me, how when I do my budget, what's coming in and out is a process of gratitude, however it shows up. So that's one of my tools, is thanking my money as it goes in and as it goes out. And then the other tool that I use is technology. I use a lot of, I've had experience with different apps that allowed me to have a better ease and flow in the way that I budget my funds. And using those apps, and we'll share some of that with you, it allowed me to take the angst out of figuring out every line item. Now, I have done the zero budgeting, and I have to say, it took me a while before I can get that zero budgeting. But using different apps and technology, that technology really gave me, just the grace and the time to enjoy my budgeting. One of them is Personal Capital. And that's an easy app that actually gives me my net worth easily, but you have to put the information in. So for me, like, loving my budget had to be about being grateful for what came in and what came out. And so when I sat down to do my numbers, it was with mindset of, you know what, this is amazing that I'm paying this Con Ed bill because I have light, right? And then when money is coming in, I'm even more happy. How has it been for you? How have you embraced budgeting?
Budgeting was a whirlwind, and I don't, maybe there are folks here who could relate to this. So, I had a flourishing career, and from one day to the next, due to a medical situation, it all came to a halt, losing 70% of my income, and it took budgeting to a whole nother level, a place I wasn't ready for, didn't anticipate, and didn't prepare for. And so it was a scary place, because what was happening was a lot of those. So I grew up, under a very stressful financial situation, right? We were really living under poverty line, and under poverty line, and so what I found was that I was experiencing some of that traumatic history related to money and finances, right? And but I didn't realize it till I paused. I which is why, and and I want to express how I deal with it now. I deal with it with TLC, right? I like to tally, I like to limit, and then I like to celebrate. Right. So what I realized I had to do is I'm going to have to really tally what I'm spending now. My budget is different. And then I'm going to have to limit, some of these things, and limit some of these spendings, and then celebrate the earnings. But when it came to limiting, it was like a blow in my stomach. It was painful. Right. And I realized, wait a minute, I had to reframe my story and realize, I'm not going to go there. I'm safe. I got a roof over my head. I got, some level of intelligence that I could use to try to figure out how to change that old story into a new story where I could move forward. So what I realized is budgeting doesn't mean no. Budgeting means yes.
Yes.
Yes to prosperity. Yes to looking at ways for me to kind of I kind of create a new identity in the situation that I was in at that moment.
And you know what? We're on a wealth journey. You are my sister, and many of you here are my sister on the wealth journey.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things, that it is a journey, right? I'm thinking that I just retired after 30 years in mental health. I just retired. And during that time, I was saving, budgeting my money in a very careful way, right, for this very moment of my retirement. And it's a different conversation now for me, as I'm having to pull money out rather than saving. And then here's the thing about the journey to wealth is that there's an end goal. And I'm at the end goal of 30 years of saving and budgeting. And I want to share with you something that I'm really happy about when it comes around budgeting, because I really want you to understand that it's not about just the saving. It's like, what is it that you're saving for? What's the plan? And I'm getting ready to go to Nepal for 2 months. Well, Southeast Asia for 2 months. And one of the things that I did a couple of years ago, I began saving. I began my budgeting for that particular trip so that I didn't have to pull out of my pension. And so having a goal, and I'm getting ready to live that goal, that's what it's about. You know, and so that's where my passion and my ease, knowing that I had this wonderful goal that I'm getting ready to achieve and move forward.
And that's you celebrate, right? Because you worked on it, right? So when you were tallying, right, you were doing some TLC yourself. You were tallying, and that's your way of budgeting. You were saying, okay, where can I cut some dollars here so I can add it to my travel bank, and then be able to set some limits in order to really fund that travel bank. And then you celebrated your success. And folks, for all of you here, understand, yeah, sometimes budgeting is not, well, budget. I don't want to, no, I'm gonna reframe that. Budgeting could be joyous, because budgeting doesn't have to be punitive. Budgeting could be something that you enjoy. If you could reflect for a moment and say, I'm going to budget for prosperity. I'm going to budget for the things that I look forward to, whether it's an apartment or reducing my debt, or whether it's being able to travel somewhere. It's we could just do that little switch, like little switch over, not twitch, switch, right? And think of it in a way, the next time we want to compulsively buy, we ask ourselves, is this going to stress me out when I see the bill? Is this worth it at this moment? Do I really need this? Is this a need, or is it a want? And what do I really need? I need prosperity. And what do I want is linked to that prosperity. So I'm gonna have to set some limits, but you celebrate. I love having accountability partners, because when we do, then we can call that partner and say, hey, guess what? I was about to go to Kohl's and I said, no, I'm not gonna do this. I don't even have my 30% off coupon. So why would I even shop today? Right. So it's reframing those stories, right?
And the other thing that I want to add is, especially the last couple of years, I'm really clear. And this was part of my conversation back in January when I hosted a Wellness Wednesday, is that wealth is our birthright. Like, wealth is our birthright. Wealth is an attitude. And at Disrupted Dial, we're really about disrupting the lackness mentality, the lackness conversation, because wealth is our birthright. Wealth is an attitude. And embracing a budget that you can work with and not having it be onerous, not having it be a pain in the ass. And you know what? I'll be real. It can be a pain in the ass. It can be hard. But then when we have a goal that we're moving towards too, it's a different conversation. So now I want to hear from you. Oh, you know what, Zawadi, can you share slide 1? I just realized we have, I talked about the things that work for me and being in a state of gratitude. For me, gratitude is the cornerstone of abundance. You say thank you enough, it's going to be coming back to you.
Because that's vibration, right?
It's the vibration. Listen, I say thank you with my steps. Left feet is thank you, right is thank you, is thank you. As I'm walking, I'm saying thank you. And as I said, arigato in, arigato out. I wanted to share just some of the technology that I use because, again, we're at the intersection of technology. And that is the dog. Arigato. Arigato is Japanese for thank you. Arigato your money. Arigato in, arigato out. Ken Honda, please check out his book, Happy Money. Thanking and blessing your, that's supposed to be your budget. Thanking and blessing you, that's important too, but that's bless your budget and your money. And see how that works for you. And bringing in some technology for ease and flow. And all of these I have used personally myself. I won't recommend something that I haven't actually had experience. Now, a couple of these, there is a monthly fee, but it has worked for me. So this is not financial advice. We invite you to check out these apps and see what works for you. But it has, for me, it has taken the angst out of budgeting. I'm still sitting with a checkbook, but then I have I have technology. Let's use the technology that we have to make our life easier. So now, yes, the second slide, and I love this woman. You're going a little too fast. I know we need to speed it up. Go back. Yes, every budget has its own story. What has been your budget journey? Has it been with ease and flow? Or has it been anxious and fear? We want to take a few minutes just to hear from you because this is where the juice is. What is your story?
I know we shared a little bit. We would love to hear from you.
Off mute.
Please unmute yourself. And I aspire to have, I'm looking at the, yes, zero-based budget, your money in, yes, your money out. Arigato in. So, and here, but the arigato in is actually saying thank you for what's going in, what's coming in, and thank you for what's going out. Listen, I had to say thank you when I paid that parking ticket. Through my teeth, I was saying thank you.
Maybe some of you are doing some budgeting now. It's the start of the new year and you're trying to figure out, okay.
I something.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
So like I watched this show on YouTube. It's called The John Deloney Show, and he was talking about how him and his wife approach budgeting, and his wife approaches it by thinking of budgeting as like freedom, as buying freedom and stuff. And that like really resonated with me because like I'm 29 now, so I'm like trying to get serious about my finances for the first time ever. And I just didn't grow up with like a finance background. Like neither of my parents taught me personal finance. And I remember one day I was at the mall when I went to college in New Jersey. I was like 19 at the time, and it was like American Eagle, just the store that I shopped at the time. And they asked me if I wanted to sign up for a credit card. And that was like the biggest mistake I ever made was getting, and I was instantly approved too, and I was 19. And it just from there snowballed into like pretty much ruining my finances in my early 20s. And now that I'm 29, I'm trying to like not only learn personal finance for the first time, but like clean up the mess that I made like 10 years ago when I was 19.
Wow. And I appreciate that you share that story. And here's why. A lot of those high interest rate credit cards target the Black and brown community more so than any other community, and which is not cool. But what we find in a moment, you get those cards that says, okay, you can pay now, you can pay, you buy now, but pay later, we got you. But really, do they have you? Then you're finding that it takes you a year, to 2 years, to 3 years, to 4 years to finish out of debt. And it was something that could probably even cost $50, $70, and it's still taking you all this time because the interest rates are out there, right? But this isn't about kind of but this conversation here is about celebrating the fact that now you know more than you did yesterday, and that you're ready to put yourself in a position where you're going to do some TLC. You're going to tally your expenses. You're going to put some limits in. You're going to celebrate it. I know when I first had to go through when I went through what I went through, I know that you asked here, was I going through ease or flow? No, I was going through a lot of anxiety and a lot of fear. But what was interesting was I started doing things that I wouldn't have done had I not looked into my finances, had this health issue not forced me to look into my finances. Like I called my insurance company. I'm not driving as much now because of medical reasons. And I find out I was overpaying by $1,400 a year. Started cutting down some other subscriptions that I didn't realize I had. You know, it's in looking at things in monthly expenditures. I'm like, why am I doing this? I don't need to be doing this. The fact is, that experience, the silver lining was, and this is what I mean by reframing. Sometimes we just got to reframe our situations, because sometimes these hiccups actually puts us in a situation where now we could move forward with our finances, because we were forced to do a lot of cleanup. Now I'm cleaning things up so I could be an investor. Whether you want to invest in crypto, whether you want to invest in regular stocks, whether you want to invest in a savings account, in an emergency fund, you will find that when you start looking through your credit cards, that's how I tally. I look through all my charge cards and say, okay, what have I been spending on? Was that necessary? Was that a need or a want? What do I want to do different? What are some of my ongoing automated expenses? Are they even billing me correctly? So
Jessica, thank you for being transparent and vulnerable. I appreciate that story, especially as a counselor formerly at a public university. Those credit card companies would park themselves right outside the campus and just target students. And so, yes, so it's about being knowledgeable, and your sage self is moving forward to addressing that. I'd love to hear any other stories in terms of, has your budgeting experience, maybe we'll take about one or two more. What has that experience been for you?
I've had a pretty similar experience with credit cards in the past, and I've looked at different solutions, and currently, like, the best solution I would say that I've found for myself in the debt that I'm in, like, I'm not in like serious crazy debt as far as outside of student loans. So like with the credit cards that I have had in the past that I no longer have anymore, but I still owe, I recently found out that people are capable of deleting things off of their credit history, but that's also a whole nother process. Um, and it would still involve kind of paying, but as far as paying how much you owe compared to paying to get it deleted off of your credit history is way different. And I know that that's a way that a lot of people are trying to fix their credit now. So that's just a piece of advice I would give to anybody who doesn't know about that option, as far as getting their credit fixed or fixing things that may be little, but may be hurting their credit really bad.
Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Tahina. I want to ask a question. What do you think about the strategy that I use about thinking my money in and thinking as it go out? Arigato in, arigato out. Has anyone had that experience, or have tried that in terms of really embracing their budget, their money, in a way that calls in the grace, that calls in the blessing? And how has that worked for you?
I have. Hi, my name is Liz. I had taken a class also with Ken Honda So
Ah,
no, the arigato in, arigato out. And when I started to actually thanking my money for living and be grateful, that was the key. Be grateful for what that money is giving you in exchange. So when the money was going out, it was not, why? I need it and I have to hold on to it. My God, I'm not going to have enough. It was more like, thank you, because I know you're going to come back to me at some point.
yeah.
So it was a lot more, the anxiety level went down
Yes, yeah.
because every time you have gratitude for something, it changes something within you. So for me, that was my experience.
Thank you for sharing that. And I know that we need to wrap up, but gratitude is a game changer. This was not a conversation to show you how to budget, and this is zero budgeting. You know, so many of you here are in a boot camp, or you've done that. The message here is, how do we change our mindset to embrace that conversation? And so I hope that you've gotten something out of that. And so hold on to some of these thoughts. Using technology, TLC, making sure that you take care of yourself, making sure that you celebrate yourself. Like, I'm getting ready to celebrate big time because I budgeted. That's so important. It's not just about savings, right? It's a journey, and the journey can be fun. And lastly, arigato in, arigato out. Arigato
Yes.
in, arigato out. Can everybody do this with me? Arigato in, arigato out.
Arigato out.
Wealth is your birthright. Listen, put your crown on, because wealth is your birthright. Our ancestors sacrificed too much for us to be poor.
That's
Up in
right.
this
That's right. That's
world.
right. That's right.
Okay.
And this is
Good
2024.
night,
A lot of good
everybody.
things are happening this year.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks for
Have a
coming.
great evening.
All right, bye-bye.
Love you all.